So I had so much fun the other day building the flying Jack Reaper from Spirit Halloween that it really put me in this mood to build some more props. I was on the internet the other day just kind of flipping through, seeing what was going on, and I came across this chair called the Seat of Death. It's basically a seat, a chair that is made out of a Grim Reaper who's sitting there holding two skulls. Thing looks totally awesome. I believe the place I found it was like Home Depot. They wanted $2,500. I found it on another website. They wanted $1,700. And not that I was even considering buying it, but looking at it, I was like, I could make that. So that's exactly what we're going to do today, guys. I have this chair behind me that I actually picked up at a Mark's store today for 20 bucks. It's an actual chair that you can sit in. I got some tools on the table behind me. I have pool noodles, and I have a whole box of skeleton parts. Now, the first half of this project is pretty clean, so I'm going to be doing it right here in my living room. The second half, we're going to get into using some monster mud, so that part I'm going to have to do outside. But until then, let's go ahead and get started on this, and I'm going to talk you through everything I'm doing in case you want to make your own Seat of Death, or as I'm calling it, the Skelethrone. So as we're looking at the picture of this Seat of Death, you can see that it is a seated Grim Reaper in a chair. His head is up here. You can see his spine, his rib cage, and then he has a black robe draped over the entire chair, including himself, with his hands sticking out on each side, each holding a skull, and his feet sticking out at the bottom. So we're going to do our best to replicate that, and we're going to try to do it as cheap as we possibly can. So starting with the chair itself, as I said, I spent $20 on this today at a local Mark's store. It's just a simple black frame, but it is a lawn chair. I mean, you can actually sit in this chair. Now, the green on here, we're not going to worry too much about because you're not going to see this down here. It's going to be completely shrouded in black. But this part up here, you might see a little bit of this back here through the rib cage of the skeleton. So I have some paint here. We're going to go ahead and just paint this part black. And I'm just using cheap paint from Walmart here. It doesn't have to be perfect. All I want to do is accomplish making this black instead of green, or at least mostly black. Just enough so that whatever you see through the skeleton's ribs, the rib cage, you're going to see black and not green. So just a quick coat of black here. And there we go. That will suffice. Now, while that's drying, let me tell you a little bit about the skeletons I have to work with here. This is one that I've been pulling pieces and parts off of. He only has one leg. He doesn't have either arm. And I just kind of been using him for different things. So I think I'm going to use him in this project. And I actually got him free last year when I went to pick up a table that I bought from somebody. He was sitting in their garage and I was like, oh, cool skeleton. And the guy was like, do you want it? And I said, yes. Now in this box we have a whole bunch of other skeleton parts, enough to make 2 full skeletons. Now, I bought these together from Amazon for $100 for both of them. So far we have $120 in this project. If you're counting the paint, it's another $1. But this is what the skull on this one looks like. Sorry my lighting isn't the best, but his jaw moves and everything. And I like that they actually came in pieces so that you would have to put them together because I would otherwise just have to take them apart. We have to try to discern through these pieces what we actually need to build this prop. So we know we need a skull. We actually need 3 skulls. I have these 2 and then this one here. So let's do a quick comparison here. They look pretty close to being the same. Come back here in the light a little bit. Really not too much of a difference there, but I think we're going to try to use this guy as the skeleton that goes on top, the actual Reaper, and then we'll use these skulls as the ones that he has in his hands. We also need a couple of feet, and we also need a couple of arms, so we're going to remove these arms from that rib cage right there. Okay, so I went through my box of bones here. I got this part ready here with the head, the rib cage, the spine, and he's going to sit right up here. I got 2 arms here, and each of those are going to be attached on here, one on each side, and they stick out a little bit because remember, they're going to be holding skulls. So if I turn the chair like this, you can see where if we attach it like this, or maybe even back here a little bit, then this hand has space in front there to hold the skull. We'll fine-tune it as we move along here. But then we have the 2 legs, and obviously one goes on each side here. So to attach this part to the back of the chair, I'm actually going to use zip ties. Because if you remember, here's holes in the back of this chair here. So it'll be easy to slip zip ties through there and then just bring them right through the bones and pull them tight, and that'll be attached. This head is pretty wobbly on here. But by the time we're done with this, that will not be an issue. We'll just have to decide whether we want his mouth open or closed. Now I have clear zip ties here. They're not really clear, they're white, as you can see right there. And they will basically camouflage right into the back of the bones anyway. So we're just going to stick a couple through here, bring our skeleton around, and I got to reach in, put them through another bone. Actually going to put these up a little higher because there's these little holes in the back here that we want to put these through. And these little wing bones here, the shoulder bones, we want to make sure that those come over the top of the chair here. So right there is perfect. All right, pull that through, pull it through the back, and pull it tight. And there we go. We really don't even need to put any more zip ties on here, but I think I'm going to go ahead and put 2 more down here just to reinforce it. And there we go. Pull them tight. That guy's not going anywhere. Looks good so far. Next up, the arms. So we want to make sure that however we put these arms on, that it leaves plenty of space for the hand to be holding the skull just like that on each side. So I am actually going to duct tape the arms onto the chairs because you're not going to see these bones back here. You're only going to see a little bit of this up here. There we go. There we go. And that's how the arm will look on there. And remember, this part's going to be covered, so the black tape is not going to show. All right, there's one arm. All right, those arms aren't going anywhere. At the moment, we can lift them up like that if we want. But there they are. They're in the perfect position to be holding on to a skull right there on each side. Okay. And the same thing with the legs. Like, they got to be flush down here with the bottom of the chair. So it's got to be like this. But we're just going to duct tape them on there. First thing I got to do, though, is cut off a little bit of this to give us some foam along here on each side to hold the leg up, because there's a big space right between the leg and the actual metal of the chair. All right, so one piece right here. I think it's actually going to take 2 pieces of foam to fill that gap. Yeah, that'll be good there. That way we can tighten it down with the duct tape, and that'll be perfect. And I'll show you, it's not as long as the bone, because after we drape his robe on, you're still going to see a little bit of bone here sticking out, and we don't want them to see any of this. You gotta love duct tape. Let me turn this so you guys can see a little bit better. There you go, you can see a little bit better what I'm doing. Here we got the bottom of the foot level with the bottom of the chair leg right there. We got a little bit of space in here so that whatever you do see down here, you're not going to see the blue pool noodle. And there's one leg right there. Spin it around. We'll do the same thing on the other side. The foot even there. All right, there we go. You got the feet, the legs, the arms, the head, rib cage. So he is looking pretty good so far, guys. Now we got to figure out the skulls here. So we have this little piece of backbone on here. This is how it came from Amazon, because you're supposed to connect that to the rest of the spine when you're building these skeletons. Since there's going to be fabric pulled up here anyway, right there is how we want it. I am going to use one zip tie just to put it in place here. Hold it in place while I'm taping it. All right, that doesn't look too bad. There's one. There's 2. Hands down. And there we go so far. Okay, there it is so far, guys. Oh my gosh, it looks so weird right now, but by the time we're done with this, it's going to look much better. So yeah, we got the legs down here. I duct taped those on. I put a little bit of these pool noodles on here just to fill in the gap between there. We got the skulls on, and I'll show you over here. I got one zip tie at the top, and then I duct taped around the bottom of that spine part right there. Same thing over here. One zip tie and some duct tape there. And then we've got the hands here. The arms are duct taped on here. They're not going anywhere. And then we got the top part here with the skull, the rib cage, the spinal column. And if we look at the back here, you can see where I have 4 zip ties coming out. So that's how the whole thing is being held together at the moment. Now the next thing we need to do is just beef it up a little bit on the top. Like he needs actual arms that are going from his shoulders down to where it's going to meet the bones of his forearms there. Because if we just threw the draping over top of him here, he would have bony shoulders here. You'd see this sharp edge of the chair there. It just wouldn't look right. So that's where these pool noodles come in. We're basically going to take one of these on each side and attach it and bend it and bring it down a little bit. It'll look much better, believe me. But you get the idea. We need to create some sort of a shoulder and an arm here. Okay, so let's see how we can pull this off. First thing we want to do, I'm going to split this so that it'll go on here. You turn this so you can see a little bit better what I'm doing. So I want to put this on here to kind of beef up the arm, and then I want to have it come up here to the shoulder. So something like this, where it looks like there's actually an arm there, and I want this to bend over like this so that it creates kind of a shoulder. All right, so about here. We got to keep that bone up there so that if it shows sticking out of the drape, then you don't see, again, this pool noodle. All right, there we go. All right, that'll work right there. We'll do that to both sides. Yep, that'll work perfect right there. All right, there we go so far, guys. We got both the arms done up there. This one sticks out a little bit more. I might put a little bit more duct tape on it and pull it in. We don't want him to look like a football player. But there it is so far. Coming along pretty dang good. Okay, a couple days later here, we're outside. It's not supposed to rain today. You can see we have the chair behind us here. I made a couple of improvements here. I added a couple pieces of the pool noodle right here and right here just to kind of beef it up a little bit, as well as back here across this open area, just because I don't want our fabric like falling back through that hole. I also changed my mind on the way that we're going to do this prop from here on out. In the beginning, I said we were going to be using Monster Mud. Now, basically with Monster Mud, you take canvas drop cloth, you soak it in this Monster Mud mixture, and then you drape it over whatever you're making, and it hardens up and it makes it look stone. Even though the chair that we're trying to create here, the original one is like a hard plastic throughout, I couldn't get over this idea that I really wanted there to be more of like a draped fabric on here. Because this isn't a prop that we're actually going to be like setting outside. If you were making like a cemetery headstone with a skeleton on it or something holding a lantern, that's when you would really want to use that Monster Mud and make it look like it's cement. But this is just supposed to be kind of a reaper sitting in this chair, and I really want this to look like, if you see it, you're going to think, man, that guy's going to get up and get me, or if I sit down in that chair, he's going to wrap those arms around me and take me. So I thought we would get more of that effect if we used some actual fabric. So I was in Michael's the other day, and I actually bought 10 yards of this black fabric here, and this is kind of like a velour fabric. You can see how one side is pretty plain, but this side is kind of shiny, and that looks exactly like the kind of robe that I really want to have on this guy. So in keeping our running tally of how much we're spending on this prop, this is 10 yards. It was on clearance for $7.99 a yard, so I got this for $80. Then I bought a pack of scissors from Michael's as well. I believe these were $15. Foam mounting tape. It's double-sided mounting tape from Target. $6.28. And then I bought a pack of binder clips. There are 60 in here, and they were only $2.99. The alternative to the binder clips was just like safety pins. And safety pins are kind of hard to work with, plus you're stabbing yourself all over the place. These will be very easy to drape our fabric and then clip it on there to hold it in place. And we may or may not leave those on there permanently. We'll just have to see how this goes. So what I want to do is I want to take my fabric here. I want to cut it into several little swatches, smaller pieces, so I can drape them along in different places around the whole prop here. Because in the end, I want it to look like a robe, a hooded robe that he's wearing. And I want to make sure that everything is covered and everything is draped correctly. So I'm going to take a couple of smaller pieces, one for each side here, so I can tuck it up underneath each skull, wrap it around here. I think that'll give us a nice flow hanging down here. I want to maybe wrap a piece around the bottom here, a piece around the top, maybe a piece over the arms and the seat. I want to take a piece and cut out a hole where it will show the ribs up here. That'll drape over the head and down over the seat. And then another piece to drape over his head for the hood. Okay, so I got all the strips of fabric cut. As you can see, I have a couple of them draped on the skeleton on the chair here, a couple back here. I have 5 pieces draped on here so I wouldn't forget where they go, because this took a little bit of doing in figuring out exactly how big to cut each piece, where I wanted them to drape over. And I actually have 6 more pieces cut and back there sitting on the hot tub. Now I pulled this drape behind the skeleton so you could see better what was going on over here. But basically what I did was I just kind of went around the skeleton chair here and I kind of measured out, you know, just using my hands and that, looking to see where I wanted stuff to drape. Like I know I want some draping on here. I want a piece draping over the seat here. I know we're going to have some draping over the hands and the skulls here. So I'm just going to kind of start piecing this together, and I'm going to tell you guys what I'm doing while I do it. So starting with these pieces up here, what I wanted to do was be able to pull this into here and behind the rib cage a little bit right here. Now the stuff that's down here, it's not really going to matter where it's going. I just wanted to drape it down through here so that you'd see a little bit of that back through the rib cage there. There we go, just mess with it a little bit, you know, drape it over as far as you can, over anything that you can, because in the end we want every single piece of this to be covered with this black fabric except what we want to see. And we want it to end up just looking like a gown that's hanging over him with a hood over his head. And wait till you see what I did for the hood. This is going to be awesome. So we're going to do the same over here, and let me show you this real quick. When I cut this, I didn't put a whole lot of effort into making sure that the edges were not like jagged, because anywhere that we need to, we can just fold that under and we have a nice line there. In the end, it's all going to blend in together anyway. It's all black. Push it right down through there, and there we go so far. Overlap that so you don't see anything down in there. And we're going to have another piece coming over here anyway. And first I just want to drape everything on here to make sure it's how we want it. But then I'm going to introduce something else into here. This was about $17 on Amazon. And all this is black Velcro. 2 big rolls of it. And we're going to use this to help secure everything in place once we've got it where we want it. So let me just shut up here for a minute. I'm going to leave the camera on. I'm just going to do what I do. And then we'll see how it looks in the end. Now, I didn't want it to just kind of be form-fitting around the skull like it is on the arms. I wanted it to form an actual hood that's kind of open a little bit. So what I did was I took some cardboard from a pizza box, cut it in a long strip, covered it with duct tape, and then I used my 2-sided tape to attach this piece of fabric to it. So when we put this over the skull, it's going to give us more of a rounded area that we can kind of form, rather than it just laying right over the skull. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. Very, very cool. With that cardboard in there, we can kind of shape that any way we want. We can pull it in a little bit closer here if we want, pull it down a little bit, anything that we want to do to make it look the creepiest that it possibly can look. Wow, he looks awesome. I'm about to show him to you here in a second, guys. The only thing that we have left to do is go back through with that Velcro and secure all these pieces of fabric. But you've seen the basic process. You've seen me dress him up. Now it's time to have a look at the finished product. And there he is, guys. I don't know about you, but I am very, very pleased with the way that this turned out. If we put a side-by-side here of the original chair that I saw and this one that I've created right here at home, I think you will see that they both are totally awesome, and you guys can tell me in the comments below which one you like the best. Personally, I think the first one is awesome, but I think this one blows it way out of the water, and I think it's because of the kind of fabric that I used to drape over him like his robe. I think that black velour sheen that kind of shines in the light gives it such a spooky look that it actually does look like if you sat down in that chair, he just might grab you and take you under. But there he is, guys, the final product there. I think it looks totally awesome. There's a lot more you could do to this to make it even spookier. You could black wash those skulls. You could add some roses and candles and fog and sound effects, and he would be totally awesome, as if he's not already.